Hello. It's another frosty one today. Look at this down the river. You see the condensation coming. I think maybe if I've turned the camera correctly. It's a frosty one. And this morning, my youngest daughter, who's at university now, FaceTimed me. She likes to do that sometimes, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to share this because some of you might be parents of younger children, and what she shared with me is really sweet. So she said, I just wanted to have a chat with Mom in the morning, and it took me back to when we used to, I'd be getting her off for school and then going on the school run and the things that we used to do. So first of all, she has finally got herself started a little morning routine for herself. So things that I've been encouraging her to do for years, and certainly since she's left home, if you like, and on her way. Things like keeping your space clear, tidy space, tidy mind, and making your bed in the morning so that it's lovely for you to come home and get into later on, or just chill out, just little things like that that we might take for granted. They're actually acts of self-care, and important to start your day off right. And what we used to do in the car was a little gratitude list. So she did go through a period of time where she had a bit of a rough time in school. I think, as most of them do, the system's not really set up to make it a pleasurable experience in some cases, where there's a lot of pressure on everyone in schools these days, teachers, students, everything. So she was so what we used to do in the car was list 3 things that we're grateful for, and then unbeknownst to her, and she did cotton on, of course, but that list would grow each day. And sometimes you'd get the old, oh, I don't even know, but whatever. But it made her pay attention to the things that she was grateful for in her life. We also did, on many occasions, we used to have a little bedtime routine where she'd have a bath and we'd do some tapping, get rid of any crap from the day, so that she'd have a lovely peaceful sleep. I sort of instilled that routine, but she's at an age now where she's finding her own way, and sometimes there've been times where we pulled over on the side of the road on the way to school because there was anxiety coming up for her, and we would we'd do a little 5-minute session to bring her back into balance in the car on the way to school, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching these practices, because for kids in particular, those of us that weren't brought up knowing that we could self-regulate, have had to find our own way of doing that one way or another, and it's been amazingly helpful for me. And then I've passed that on to my children, and they've all benefited from that, and then that will go, they'll then be able to help their children, and next generation is already on its way, so that's a really cool thing, I think, to have been able to pass on. And so she called me this morning and was like, I woke up at 6:30 and I did this and I did that, and all of these lovely self-care, appreciation, gratitude practices of just giving herself time and creating her space as she wants to create it. And it was just such a lovely affirming that, and you know, for me, I've been saying the same thing over and over again, but it takes a minute. In everything that we experience in our life, sometimes we'll do the same, repeat the same pattern, the same loop of behaviour, even if it's destructive, for a really long time before we actually go, oh, and realise either what we're doing or what another is doing. But as I always say, we can't do anything about the other. We can only do us, and realise and recognise our own behaviour and our own part in that pattern, or our self-destructive behaviours, or our and then have a bit of curiosity as to why. If we want to, you know, you can stay in the loop, you can do that. Again, you know, but there's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity for growth. There's always an opportunity to change. There's always an opportunity to come back to that heart space and that part of ourselves. So yeah, that's my first little share today. And I need to pause the video because it's so cold. I think my hand's going to drop off. If you can do little practices, that's maybe something that might be helpful for you, or you might be a parent, might be helpful for your kids as well, because I know that there's those days where you're like, oh, you know, get into the monotony of the day. And quite often, you know, especially in the energies that we're in, the world seeming to be so chaotic, it's a good way to create our own stability, our own feeling of inner knowing that we're okay, that self-nurture, that self-grounding and earthing, they call it. They say about getting out into nature, which of course, you know, I'm out in nature right now, and look how beautiful. You know, I'm not necessarily wanting to get my feet in the earth right now. It's a little bit cold for that, but in between doing videos and being with the dog, I'm appreciating, noticing things around me. I'm breathing, taking a moment to breathe deeper, breathe slower. And these are things that are simple things that don't cost us anything, that help us get back into our centre and our earthing. I teach this when we do our dance classes as well with my ladies, of, you know, roots into the ground and breathe. A gorgeous friend, Dr. Joe Delaney, he has the I am method and various other things, and he always says, breathe in the light, breathe out the shite. And I think that's a pretty cool way of putting it. But we can breathe out, you know, notice what's happening in our own body, give ourselves the time to have the pause, to have the notice what's going on within us, to create that safe space and that stability for ourselves. Like I say, even when we do tapping, we acknowledge what's happening within us, and you can F and blind and, you know, do all of those, speak to yourself or outward in your own language, and allow yourself to feel whatever that is, the frustration, the anxiety, the anger. Notice, give it a name if you need to, but know that everything is always passing through, and that you can give yourself that stability. You can bring yourself back into balance. The body's always, it's our vehicle. It's always giving us signals and messages as to where we're out of alignment or may need to rebalance. And even depression can be atoned to deep rest. You know, quite often people, and depression is ruminating over past, but sometimes you need to do that and go there for a little while, because you've been through an experience that's been really challenging, and you haven't, in the point that you're at, your body's just saying, just rest, you know, allow your body to catch up with the crazy that's just happened. Pause, slow. And this is what I was saying in one of my previous videos, is the world is so fast and crazy, and lots of falseness and AI generation, that it's even more important now to not watch the video at full speed and to be vulnerable and recognise. We notice, we learn by repetition, and kids learn from a really young age. Their environment around them, the energy, the feeling of that. And for a lot of us, we were born into families that, with maybe single parents, or that already had their own challenges going on, and so perhaps weren't given that element, or shown that element of safety, of stability in our life. So we've been in survival mode for a really long time. So if we can start to give ourselves that now, that younger, you know, nurture that younger version of ourselves that perhaps didn't get that from our caregivers or the parents, you know, who in most cases were just doing the best that they can with the knowledge and awareness that they had, and had their own challenges and were never shown this stuff. But if we can do that for ourselves, children learn the bad stuff, those patterns picked up in childhood, but they also can learn the good stuff. And it's more by what they see the people around them doing and showing and giving, and then they notice what they're not getting. But if we do that for ourselves, they're going to learn by seeing what we do. And that's how we break patterns and cycles of generational trauma, of generational challenges, and it's called ancestral healing, you know, because it ripples in the generations to come, and it also heals those that are behind. And especially if you've still got parents that are living, energetically it works in exactly the same way in however we do it, but because it's all coming from within you. No one else has walked in your shoes. No one else knows how you feel within. And sometimes we're so numbed out and distracted and don't want to deal with what's happening within because it can feel too painful, too challenging, and you feel like you're never going to recover sometimes. And even that is okay to feel for a bit. We just don't want to stay there. Now that we know and starting to learn that we can give ourselves that with this awareness, that is then a possibility for lasting change that ripples out further than we even realise. You know, that we can make little videos about it if we want to, or just practice it, just you doing you, giving yourself whatever it is that you need in whatever given moment, ripples out further than we know. And so it's remembering that you are valuable in every breath, that you can choose to notice or you could choose to ignore. And when everything seems so overwhelming and chaotic outside of you, perhaps take a pause and a breath and do that earthing grounding. It could be, I'm just looking at along the river as I'm walking, and there's a fisherman And that's obviously something that he enjoys. He's enjoying it in joy. He's being in joy. So do bring yourself back into that. Whack some music on and have a dance and a boogie. You know, I do that every day, and I teach others and share that with a greater community. That's my joy, and I'm really grateful every day and inspired every day that I get to do that. And that sort of came very serendipitously and aligned after me doing years of personal development and learning more about this stuff and about how I can create and give myself all of those things that I didn't receive myself, you know. So yeah, you can be your greatest cheerleader, just as you can be the one that talks negatively to yourself and gets down on yourself. We're usually our own harshest critic, but you can flip that and start to give yourself what you need and stop judging yourself so harshly, or notice when you are. That's a really good start. And create your own stability, your own safe space, and allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you need to feel. I repeat this a lot, but again, we learn by repetition. So maybe it might start to align with where you're at, and you might hear me this time. So sending you hugs for a fab day. Remember your awesomeness and go smash it.